Brisket is slathered in a mixture of mustard and hot sauce. It's crusted with my barbecue spice mixture, and it's going to be smoked low and slow on my Kamado grill. Today on Cravings Food Adventures, I'm going to show you how to smoke a whole brisket. This recipe is absolutely incredible. This brisket is going to cook low and slow, and it's going to be fall off the bone delicious. Before I go any further with this recipe, do make sure you subscribe to my channel and make sure to ring that bell so you're notified every time I upload a new video. Now, let's get cooking. We got a new Kamado grill earlier this year, and since then I've experimented with it a few times with different timings and different recipes. This time I'm starting with about a 3.4 kg or 7.4 pound brisket. If you've never cooked a brisket before, this piece of meat comes from the underside of the cow. The brisket consists of two parts, the flat and the point. The muscles in the brisket support the body of the cow, so it contains a lot of muscle that only benefits from slow cooking. When the collagen turns to gelatin, it results in a really tender meat. I've taken this out of the bag and I've rinsed it. I have a meat boning knife here, and I'm going to start taking off all of the silver skin. This particular piece of meat doesn't have a ton of fat, but I'm still going to cut off some of the excess fat, and I'm definitely going to leave enough on to protect the meat during the cook. And here's a little trick for slicing later. I'm going to cut a piece against the grain, as this is going to help me as a guide later when the bark prevents me from seeing the grain. I will throw away the silver skin, but the fat and any residual meat will be used later. And now for the marinade. I have a half cup of mustard and a half cup of hot sauce. I'm just going to mix this together. Add half of this to one side and spread it out. And then I'm going to flip it over and spread the other half. This mixture will act as a glue for the spice blend to stick on. I'm going to be using my own spice blend. This is a double batch. I will leave the recipe at the end of this video as well as in the description. Give this a good mix. Sprinkle on as much as you need on one side to coat. I'm going to flip it over, and then I'm going to add to the other side as well. You can also use store-bought barbecue spice or any other spice blend that you like. My Kamado grill has been started with a combination of hickory wood chunks and coal, and it has now come up to 200 degrees. Ideally, to cook this, you want to keep the temperature between 200 and 250 degrees. I'm going to add the brisket straight to the grill plate. I'm cooking this in the fall, so I'm not going to add a water bath, but if you like, you can add a foil tray with water to create some humidity in the grill. If you have a temperature probe, it's great to use so you can check on the temperature as the meat cooks without opening it up to check it manually. Typically, I'm going to cook my brisket for about 4 to 5 hours. In the summer, I found that the bark is formed easily in about 4 hours. This is the thick, crusty layer that forms on the surface of the meat. When it's cold, aka like now, I find that it takes a bit longer, so I will add extra time to create the bark if needed. You want to cook this till the point registers to about 170 degrees and the thicker part registers to 180 degrees. While this is cooking, I'm going to take all of the leftover bits I've trimmed, minus the silver skin, and I've put it through my meat grinder. Just add it to a pot without any oil or water and keep the temp low so the fat can render. If there are any bigger pieces that didn't get ground, you can add these in as well. This process of cooking the meat and the fat will result in a beef tallow. This is the fat that is separated from the meat when it's slow cooked. In about an hour or so, you can separate the fat from the solids. The tallow will be used to pour over the brisket later, and the solids will be reserved and used to make tacos. At the 4-hour mark, I'm going to take a peek. The bark still looks moist, so I'm going to let this go for another hour. It's at the 5-hour mark. The brisket has now developed a beautiful bark. To prevent this from getting too dry, you need to spritz it. I have here a combination of apple cider vinegar, water, and Worcestershire sauce. This will give an additional flavor as well. Before you take the brisket off the grill, check the temperature. I'm getting a reading of 170 on the point and 180 on the flat, so it's good to remove. You can now wrap this tightly with butcher's paper or foil. The key to a great brisket is allowing it to rest. You can place it in an insulated bag or box, but today I'm going to place this in my oven. I have my oven barely heated at about 100 degrees just to keep the brisket warm. I'm going to leave the brisket alone for about 8 to 10 hours, and after about 2 hours I'm going to turn the oven off and just allow this to rest. Allowing the brisket to rest will allow the collagen to turn into gelatin and your brisket will get tender. This is now ready to go. I'm going to pour over some of that reserved fat or tallow. And using the part I cut out earlier as a guide, I'm going to start to slice the meat. Look at that beautiful smoke ring and moist meat. Slice this up, serve it, and enjoy. Thank you so much for joining me on Cravings Food Adventures. I hope you enjoyed this delicious recipe for smoked brisket. If you love this recipe, give it a thumbs up and leave me a comment below so I know what you think about this recipe. If you love my videos, do share them with your family and friends. And make sure that you subscribe to my channel, as well as that you've rung the bell to be notified every time I upload a new video. And be sure to follow me behind the scenes on all of my social channels. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, and TikTok. Until I see you next time, do take care. Happy eating. Bye.